We're now looking at section 3.2, which is more about graphing linear equations. This time we're going to learn how to graph them using the intercepts. So the x-intercept for a graph is the x-coordinate of the point where the graph crosses the x-axis. And the y-intercept of a graph is where the graph, it crosses the y-axis, and it's the y-coordinate of that point. All lines, except vertical and horizontal lines, have exactly one x-intercept and exactly one y-intercept. We find the x-intercept by letting y equal 0 and solving for the x-coordinate. And we find the y-intercept by letting x be 0 and solving for y. For any vertical line, and all vertical lines have an equation x equals c, where c is just some number, there there is no y-intercept. And the x-intercept is whatever that number c is. Similarly, any horizontal line, which is defined as y equals c, where c is just a number, has no x-intercept, and the y-intercept is whatever that number c is. So how do we graph a line by finding and plotting the intercepts? Well, let's start by finding the x-intercept. So remember, for the x-intercept, we let y equal 0 and solve for x. So we have 3x minus 2 times 0 equals 15. So 3x minus 0, so I'm not going to write that, equals 15. And dividing both sides by 3, we have x equals 5. So our x-intercept is the point 5, 0. Now let's do the same thing and find the y-intercept. So to do that, we let x be 0. So we have 3 times 0 minus 2y equals 15. So 3 times 0 is 0. So we have negative 2y equals 15. Divide both sides by negative 2. And we're left with y equals negative 15 halves. So that point is 0, and negative 15 halves is negative 7.5. You can put that in your calculator. So we have the point 50 right here, and we have the point 0, negative 7.5, which is right there. And then we connect the dots with what we hope is a straighter line than I just made. Okay, pause the video and try to do the next 4 problems on your own, and then you can restart the video and see if you got them right. So I'm scrolling to the next page now. So we have 5y equals 2x plus 10. Okay, and we need to find the intercepts. So for the x-intercept, remember we let y be 0. So we have 5 times 0 equals 2x plus 10. 0 then equals 2x plus 10. We need to get the 10 on the other side of the equation, so we'll subtract 10 from both sides. Get negative 10 equals 2x. Divide both sides by 2, and we get negative 5 equals x. So for this one, our x-intercept is negative 5, 0. Now let's do the y-intercept. And of course, that means we let x be 0. So we have 5y equals 2 times 0 plus 10, or 5y equals 10. Divide both sides by 5, and we get y equals 2. So our y-intercept is the point 0, 2. So plot those 2 points. We have negative 5, 0, and we have 0, 2. And now we just connect the dots. Okay, y equals negative 3. Okay, remember this is one of our special cases. So if we want to find the x-intercept, we would put 0 in for y, but that makes no sense because we would have 0 equals a negative 3. What this says is no matter what value we put in for x, the y value is a negative 3. So if I were to put negative 8 in for x, doesn't matter, there's no x in that equation. Y is negative 3. Same thing if I put negative 4 in, y would be a negative 3. If I put 0 in for x, y would still be a negative 3. So what we end up with is a horizontal line at negative 3. So this is a horizontal line with y-intercept of negative 3. Okay, let's move on to the next 2 problems. So for number 9, we have x equals a negative 6. Remember, this is our other type of special line. This one is vertical. And it has an x-intercept at negative 6. So this is sort of the opposite situation of the horizontal line. With the horizontal line, there was no x in the equation, so any x meant y was negative 3. This, there's no y in the equation, so any y has an x value of negative 6. So if y were 8, it wouldn't matter. X is negative 6. If y is 4, doesn't matter. X is negative 6. So what we end up with is our vertical line with an intercept, x-intercept at negative 6. Okay, this last one. Let's see. X-intercept, we let y be 0. So 0 equals negative 3/4 x minus 3. Add 3 to both sides of the equation, and we have 3 equals negative 3/4 x. Now remember, to solve this, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So we're going to do negative 4/3 times 3 on the left-hand side, and that's a 3 over a 1, remember? And that equals, we have to multiply by a negative 4/3 on the right side times negative 3/4 x. And so everything cancels out. Well, not everything, but the 3's cancel out on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, the 3's cancel out, the 4's cancel out. And since we have two negatives, those also cancel each other out, because when we multiply them together, we get a positive. So we're left with a negative 4 times a 1 on the left-hand side, sorry. So that gives us negative 4, and on the right, we're just left with x. So that one has an intercept point of negative 4, 0. Okay, let's do the y-intercept. So for the y-intercept, we let x be 0. And we have y equals negative 3/4 times 0 minus 3. And so y just equals negative 3. So our y-intercept is at 0, negative 3. So graphing our points, negative 4, 0, and 0, negative 3. And then we connect the dots. Well, that concludes section 3.2. I'll see you in section 3.3 video.